Congrats, Sam.
Thanks.
Did I miss a tweet?
Yeah, you missed it. No, Sam is the new chair of the TOB.
Oh, very nice. Congrats.
Thanks. Chair doesn't really do a ton. About the only thing that I have power for in the charter is to call TOB meetings. But otherwise, everyone in the TOB is roughly equal. So.
Well, I will certainly join the meetings if you call them.
Yeah, just let me know when or if you want to meet.
It'll come up.
So last I checked, there's no agenda, which is probably why it's super light. And I don't see any other dispec maintainers. So I had offered to do a triage of distribution spec, but if no one else shows up, then I think that's probably not worth it. So does anyone else have topics?
Looks like my ping was fruitful, and you're probably going to get 2 other distribution spec maintainers in a minute. And there's Jimmy.
Wow.
You guys about to shame me?
Yeah, we were like, where's he been?
No, I was excited that you said you were going to join.
Got a couple minutes. I got a couple minutes.
All right, let's do it.
Yeah, you got 2. That's enough to merge stuff. As long as it's not your PRs, Josh.
I don't have any PRs, so. Can you see?
We can see.
Looks good.
Great. All right, so I brought this up last week, but Vince's like 2-year, 3-year-old extensions thing was merged. So I think we ought to talk about releasing 1.1 because this is just on main right now. So, and I know Brandon, you had a few opinions on this, but we can just pull up the milestone here. All right, so okay, I threw this in almost a year ago to add auth, since it's implemented everywhere but not documented. But I think at this point we can drop this. Any opposition?
It's one of these things that we don't say we do, and it's kind of impossible for us to really tell people that they should be doing.
Yeah, for me, it's more just that no one wrote the markdown file for it in time.
Yeah.
So, all right, actually here, so there was an issue a while ago where I'm trying to remember.
I threw that out there. I think we were depending on the specific version number on some things. And so I was giving you some Semver support. I don't think that's actually used anywhere though. So I don't know how valuable this is, but if you're interested, there it is. And yeah, massive change for everything. But the short of it is that it just gives you Semver versioning of your tags. So you get the V1, the V1.1, the V1.1.1.
Okay, I'm trying to remember what it looks like right now.
Right now, it looks like that.
I see. Okay. Yeah, does Jimmy or
I can actually review this if you want. I've been spending way too much time with GitHub Actions.
yeah,
And I checked it into my own repo at one point, so you could see it over there. If you'd like me to do like a rebase and whatever to trigger another build over there, you're free to look at that way too.
I mean, I'm in favor of just throwing it against CI and seeing what happens. But yeah, Jimmy, if you want to like click the button once you look at it, that'd be cool.
This is a landmine.
It's a lot of words. Was there a PR against this?
I remember the issue we were facing, and looks like maybe there's a PR down there. The issue we were facing is that there was a concern that registries that were backed by S3 storage, which is a lot of them, can't really do this when you have multiple registries all pointing to the same S3. Just didn't have the capability to do this functionality.
I think similarly though to the auth thing. Oh, here we go. I was going to say there's no PR. I don't know that. Okay.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I know I've commented on this. Also, I know we've talked about it a bunch in the past too on calls. Yeah.
Do you want to just, should we raise this as the one thing? Or I just stay down
I
to-
mean, legitimately, my only concern was about like bit rot, basically, like us just not being able to maintain stuff. Let me like look back over it. I don't think I was being unreasonable then, especially since like I feel like there hasn't been much like updates on this PR generally, which kind of supports my argument that like if
Well,
it gets merged, it would equally rot.
well, I'm wondering if this should, similarly to extensions, like we should add a conformance around this, like or is it all client behavior? I have not looked at this, so just being honest.
I feel like the action item we took when we last discussed in a meeting was that we were going to reach out to people on distribution and see their thoughts on implementing this within their code.
Yeah, I think that like, I mean, everything documented here is just basically HTTP. Like it even references the RFC at the top. This is just like how HTTP servers like work. The question of whether people implement it or not, I feel like is fine. Like we can reach out to that, but like reach out to people and see how they feel about it. Fundamentally, we can also just like clarify in the main spec that this is entirely optional, right? And like by highlighting that it's optional, like then people can like opt in to implementing it, right?
So sorry, just hopped on here. I'm early on in the specs, I made the assumption that people would follow HTTP, but they don't. So having some explicit guidance about how to follow the HTTP is probably good. We don't need to make it must though. Yeah, that might be a good balance there.
Yeah, the
Is the
terminology
may-
there is kind of interesting because it's like may rely on, and it's like how can you rely on something? Maybe. It's like I don't understand. Like you may use, or like I don't know.
Does anyone have an idea how to reword that to make it feel more?
I feel like we should maybe not mention the clients and say that like registries, like I don't think, is there anywhere else we actually talked about client behavior in this spec? I feel like we're all server side.
No, there is. There's a few places, I think.
You got one troublemaker in here.
Okay, but is anyone, I mean, does it feel like we can get this soon for the release if we work this out? Does anyone?
Yeah, I don't think there is much contentious about this.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't even know if we need most of the actual contents in the preconditions. Like, I wonder if we can just say, look at this RFC.
Okay.
Again.
I put this link in Zoom if people want to make more comments, but I think we're still waiting on John to react to your instances comments. Maybe we can get this merged on the call.
Yeah, the only real feedback I have for that the CI one is I think literally that first step where you run a whole bunch of bash to get the step output. Docker has their own action called like meta or something like that. It's like Docker meta action or action meta, and it just extracts a whole bunch of generic like GitHub refs and stuff and then exports them that you can then reference later. So it might just save you from like writing a whole shit ton of bash, like, but you've already done that.
I would suggest, can we like open up can we get this in and then open up because like he's already tested it.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's do a PR issue that's like replace this with that.
Yep, sounds good. If this already works, yeah, it doesn't really matter.
All right, just waiting on you or Steve to click the button there then. Stephen Day, I mean, two Steves.
Which button do you want me to? You want to click
all the
merge on
buttons.
this one?
Yeah.
Sorry, I was. Oh, did I not approve this? Okay. It's like I reviewed it a year ago.
313. Sorry. Oh, Jimmy's got it. Okay.
I got you.
Do you want to do the honors too?
Oh, yeah, that's fine.
Okay. I think then. I think then there was some discussion in here. Brandon, did you want to elaborate on some of this? Like, I guess maybe what are your thoughts on? To me, I think the only thing we have left to do is add some conformance around extensions that we discussed this last week, where if you do expose extensions, then like it's optional to expose them. If you do expose them, then the response should be in the right format. And I think I can hopefully help add tests for that.
Yeah, so just scroll up to your comment up the top. And I think the big thing I was saying in here was just that, you know, we wanted to highlight the extension API. I was just giving you a couple other things of saying, here's some other things to highlight in the release. They weren't issues. It was just here, more things to talk about.
What do you mean by what do you mean by that automatic content discovery?
275, scroll down to my later comment.
Oh, I see. This was merged after 1.0.
I believe so. I think I pulled a difference, and I think this was new.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll add it to milestone, and then it'll just be in there as a closed thing.
Ta-da.
And then the other one was
Yeah, that one was kind of confusing because we were pushing through a sparse index and then realized, well, wait, everything is sparse. Now we want to say that registries can reject stuff. So
I have no memory of this, so it must not have been. Okay,
you approved
I
it.
approved it. All right. Okay.
Throw it a
We'll put
milestone.
this in there. Yeah, I think there's probably then just an outstanding issue is just to go through the milestone and see what we can add conformance to. Okay, and that's something that we probably can't do on the call. So I think we can call it here unless we want to talk about this a little bit, but I think does anyone have anything else they want to?
Sadly, Sam dropped off. I was going to ask if we wanted to add another conformance test for pushing multiple patches on a single blob to do like a chunked upload. We do a single chunk and not multiple chunks. At least last time I looked at it.
Was
It's been
that
a while.
Sorry, can you
Our
is that
conformance
related to
test for it's not related to any of this stuff, and that's
Okay.
why I'm bringing it up, is because we won't catch it any other way unless I open up another PR of here's how to fix the conformance.
Do clients do that yet? Because I remember like we implemented that for Quay, and then we realized that Docker didn't use it at all.
Yeah. So
has that changed?
I implemented it, and then Sam and I had to have a conversation. So that's why I'm bringing it up, because you had one crazy client that decided to do it and realized no one else is.
Yeah, we first implemented it that way because that's like kind of how it was documented. And then we realized that wasn't what Docker was doing. It's like, shit.
It looked like such a great spec too. But yeah, since no one is doing it, it's not really tested very much. And so I've hit some of those edge cases.
Yeah, it would be nice to have it in the conformance, just to try to like nudge everyone towards doing the right thing.
Sorry, I was looking away here. There's some. This is like not even related. This is just a test thing. I'm gonna add this. Okay, there's a bunch of other stuff. I see Derek joined. Is this, where are we at with this one from 2019? amazing that you're all still alive.
I think we're already supported in community. Maybe.
Yeah, I mean, I was probably the most hesitant person on this, and then Derek, like we made some compromise or concessions or whatever. Like I checked the box. I was convinced. Yep.
I think at the time we said not in 1.0.
Yeah, I think this was maybe like we didn't want to add new functionality in 1.0, but I could see this being in like not necessarily even a 2.0. I could see it being in like a 1.2 or something like that. I don't know if we want to try to squeeze it into a 1.1. I believe this behavior that like the Docker registries already support, right? Like the official Docker ones.
Don't think so. It's kind of like the behavior of like the Docker or like the distribution open source registry didn't really have this functionality because this was missing. Like you end up with this like weird configuration where you try to overwrite the namespaces yourself and like static configuration. So this just allows like registry proxies to be more dynamic rather than trying to like use like custom domains or something to like map like this domain should go to this domain and this domain should go to this domain.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's what I was getting at. I thought like, yeah, distribution already implements this, which subsequently means Harbor probably also already supports this, right? Like, and everyone else that depends on distribution, which I assumed was also like the enterprise registry that Docker has.
That's past tense in Docker's case.
Gotcha.
That's over at Morantis now.
Gotcha. Okay. The Morantis Enterprise Registry.
There's also been a shift a little bit around mirroring versus the caching features, because mirroring carries all the problems and the benefits. So
Yeah, that's why I was super hesitant on this initially, and then like the scope of this one was kind of like reduced a little bit to not cover like code like end to end how mirroring should work. And like I think initially that was my hesitation to this because it used a lot of the terminology around mirroring, implying that like this is how registries should implement mirroring, and considering like Quay, for example, already implements mirroring in a completely different way. In my mind, I was like, I don't want to like prescribe a way to mirror, but this is instead kind of more about like the proxying aspect, which I can see a completely orthogonal argument for, which was what eventually turned me to like approve this.
Yeah, I remember this one. Yeah, it's this one's hard because like you're trying to separate the use case from the like what it actually is. So I mean, at the crux of it, what we're just trying to do is make sure that we're passing the registry all the information that the client has. Because today we don't necessarily have that information if you're using like a mirror or a proxy. Like you just change the URL to where you're going and you don't know what the client was actually requesting. So that's like kind of like the crux of it, but like the relevant feature is like proxying, I guess. So it's not really like trying to prescribe proxy, but it's like really hard to enable an actual proxy without this. Because yeah, the information is just lost. Like if it were like doing a normal HTTP proxy, that information would be held in like the proxy host, like in HTTP headers, right? So it's just a matter of like a way to pass this information up. But yeah, I agree. Like I'm not sure that like tying it to like the end use cases. I mean, it's like necessary, but it's like, yeah, it's not required. Like you could do proxying in other ways. You could just do HTTP proxying as well.
I was wondering with the, with all the VNet working that everybody's, just constant pinging for, I need to be able to not have any upstream content coming through through the network, regardless of container registry or anything to do with that storage accounts. Is this something we want to focus on? Or like, I'd love to see the work around the caching stuff that, that we've initially outlined in the Open Containers blog post. AWS implemented last year. We're implementing this year as being more of a general pattern for solving this problem, as opposed to kind of investing more in what we know is problematic from a content movement, content propagation problem.
So we could once again reframe this and try to avoid talking about the use case and not even mention proxying, but like focus on it from like the query parameter, the optional query parameter, right? And be like, the existing API doesn't give you this. You can optionally provide this if like you want to do something else server side inside your registry and you need this information, right?
Yeah, I could do that as well. As I said, I feel like we've gone back and forth on like, hey, do we just add this variable and say, this is information, use it however you want, or hey, here's a variable, you can use it for use case, this use case. Actually,
Yeah.
I don't really care either way. Like it's I don't know. I guess I should read back through the spec to see how we're even phrasing this kind of stuff.
So we have gotten feedback from some folks that have just like tried to implement a registry straight off the OCI spec, that they like have read certain things and been like, okay, this thing exists, but why? So like I can understand how it would be confusing. Yeah, I'm also a fan of like giving more details to the registry for it to do with it what it pleases, right? I don't necessarily want to prescribe stuff. Like even if people just like took this and like stored it somewhere, or like logged it just to make their logs better or something, right? Like, yeah. I just think prescribing the use case is probably bad in this scenario, even if it does provide more information to registry implementers.
Yeah, I agree with that as well. Because as I said, like there's more than one way to proxy. We shouldn't say like this is how you must proxy. Like a client may try to do it this way, but it's hard. Like I don't know. Like it's getting these in. Like which order should you do it in is hard. At least from like the client perspective, we can just pass that information up. It's pretty free to add.
Just a question on NS. Is the value of NS actually going to be fully qualified? For example, host, repo, and tag or digest, or just the host and repo?
In this case, it's basically going to be the part that's stripped off before the registry API. I don't know if there's somewhere that was describing how, but yeah, it's not like the fully qualified name, which could be, but you'd be duplicating a bunch of information, right? So like today we have the API is like the API root / repository. And then the clients will have the fully, whatever you consider like the full image name as some sort of host name / repo. So the namespace is basically like from what a namespace, you would say you have a name, in this case is the repository, and the host in this case would be the namespace for that repository. So by definition of what a namespace is, it's basically a prefix to a name. But yeah, as I said, like image names aren't really prescriptive in terms of how they should be interpreted anyways. Like you don't even have to use a host name.
I guess in the interest of time, is this, Derek, do you think this is something we should do for 1-1, or should we keep?
Take a look at it. To me, it's not a burning issue.
Okay. Let's
Yeah,
make a 1.2. And
I would say, yeah, push this to a 1.2, just because like it does need rework. Like fundamentally, I think people can agree with the idea, but like not the text as it's written, right? Like getting the fully qualified, or like getting all the information so you can have a fully qualified like image name in the registry seems pretty important. Prescribing how it should be used seems not
and
good. Right.
Kind of brought up the thorny issue, which is around like naming and how the fact that we have tried to be as non-prescriptive as possible in terms of what a name represents. And that's why I use the word namespace and not host, because the client can take whatever name it wants, it can cut it up however it wants, and provide just part of it to a registry, or provide all of it to a registry. Doesn't matter. The namespace is basically just saying, hey, the name that I gave you, this was the namespace that it was a part of. And the fact that you're expecting to concatenate that with like a slash is in of itself, I'd say, enough controversy to say like we're being prescriptive here. But I mean, we kind of already said that names are kind of slash separated and like paths essentially.
okay, are we okay to go through the rest of these?
I gotta drop in a minute or two, but feel free.
Okay, well, I just want to make sure we have at least one other. So we have Stephen and Derek. If you guys have 10 more minutes, I think it'd be cool to.
Hello, Josh.
Oh, hey, we were just talking about you. In a good way. There was a. Sorry.
Talking about the e-tags.
Yes, I'm going blank here. So we're trying to get this milestone together so we can like try to have a realistic release. See you, Jimmy. Oh, bye. This one.
I think last I looked at this, I was hoping for vague consensus around like, should I actually PI this in a more complete way? Oh, someone commented. Vincent, oh my goodness. Yeah, I don't know that I'll get to this in the next week, so I'd be happy to punt this.
Okay. Well, that makes. All right, that was very easy. Okay, so you walked in and we were going through just like the open PRs. This top one is something I was testing out. It's just like a problem with the tests. It's nothing spec related. We just talked about Derek's PR from 2019 about proxying and determined there's still some basically still some work until we put this in. So 1.2 that. So there is. Is Steve still here?
Steve is not still here. He had to drop.
Okay.
Not Steve-O.
Yeah,
Different
right.
Steve.
I'll just silently let this fall off here. John, is this in good shape?
That's E-tags, I think.
Yeah, I think this is a counterpart to the e-tags discussion.
Okay. All right, we'll push this too.
I have 2 PRs for that.
No, the other one was the issue. This is
This one was messy.
okay. I'm gonna think that this is too contentious.
Yeah.
Okay.
Wait, why is this one so contentious? I'm very confused.
I don't know. There's just a lot of words. So does anyone have a summary?
There are some people that feel very sensitive to anything that might increase a manifest size.
Okay, well,
And they're not here to defend their point of view, so I don't want to.
got it. I mean, like, you know, we spent a long time. I think URLs had a 2K limit in IIS for a long time, which eventually got. I mean, like, it's going to increase at some point, right?
Yep.
I don't think at this point it's just saying here's what the here's what's going to happen. I don't think we even have. Do we even have a limit in this anymore? It doesn't look like it.
I think we were just documenting
Oh,
the
4.
HTTP return code, right?
Yeah, we're saying,
that's
hey,
what-
they should just support at least 4 megs.
We wanted 4. I think we backed down to 1. And then even then, we were saying we're just documenting the status code.
I don't know what the actual change is here.
Yeah, pull up the phone.
It doesn't manage. It doesn't actually mandate anything.
Yeah. There was discussion of adding a table to this of listing all the different registries out there and what they supported. I don't know if we want to go to that level within the spec.
I mean, if we just drop this 4 megabytes thing, I don't think there's any issue with this. Or is that the whole? Is that the
It
whole
says
thing?
should. It doesn't even say must. It says should. He's like, you can literally just look at the should and then skip over this section if you so disagree with it.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, the
I'm
biggest-
pretty sure, like, I've seen manifest already pushing 1 meg.
The biggest goal was to try to make sure that registries were interoperable with the same content. So if I was able to push a image to one registry, I should be able to push it to other registries that all implement the OCI spec, ideally. And so having this gave us a little bit more standardization across that.
I'm gonna say let's.
We won't solve it today.
Especially because it should anyway. Like I don't see a big urgency here, but like there's nothing really to test, and we're not going to have conformance just throw massive payloads at your registry.
That would be a nice way to speed up people caring about this, especially
Well,
with those
fine.
gigabyte TCP.
Are you volunteering?
I'm not.
Remember, John's the one who wants to embed all the data in his manifests. I'm pretty sure he's going to extend that to his layer data too. He's going to start putting the layer blobs in the JSON document.
Certainly small enough ones.
Yeah, if they're small, why not?
I'm here for it.
Okay.
Is this going to turn into like an NPM style thing where you put like, you package tiny amounts of data into blobs, which could have been a larger size manifest?
I mean, what I wanted this for is just very small bits of data, like less than a kilobyte, generally less than like 200 bytes.
Is that the image spec thing we're talking about?
Yeah, I mean, I want this for the data field because you can reduce round trips pretty substantially.
Yeah, I don't remember what the cutoff is or what the like inflection point is, but there's some inflection point where it's way cheaper to embed the data than to pay the cost of the round trip for the request. I mean, you can calculate it based on the bandwidth delay product. I don't remember. I remember calculating this at some point. It was like a megabyte or two or something like that. It's cheaper.
There's time for the round trip.
It's
the
cheaper than
bandwidth
paying the latency
itself-
costs.
The bandwidth itself is also comes into effect when you encode it in JSON. You're gonna lose some compression there.
Sure.
Was there a maximum limit? I'm sorry, I didn't notice.
The conversation is long. Basically, it depends on who you're talking about. Like registries should ideally support infinitely sized everything, right? But in reality, there's some limitations based on their design choices. So you would expect clients to kind of self-impose limits if they care about portability between registries. But from a specification point of view and the image spec, it doesn't make sense to enforce arbitrary limits on like data structures, in my opinion.
Yeah,
so
I think the TLDR on it was we were trying to say registries will support manifest at least this large, and they could go larger if they wanted to. And clients should avoid pushing a manifest above that size if they wanted to keep their manifest portable. And then we got into a debate of what that size was and lots of other debates.
I like the word portability for describing this. Like this is the line in the sand for portability. But obviously you can go way above this if your registry supports it, or you can go way below this if you really want to, but it doesn't.
Yeah. The main problem with this in general is that if the user runs into this, they have absolutely no recourse to fix it other than like somehow making their manifest smaller. So, like this is a very like pro user addition to the specification, in my opinion.
Yeah, like there are limits already, right? This just kind of makes them handleable because we're standardizing what the error code is and giving some expectation for what those limits might be.
Nisha, you've got your hand up.
Yeah, thanks. Sorry, I didn't follow that last time. So my worry is like the data field may provide an injection point for shell scripts that shouldn't be invoked. And because of the lack of round tripping, that might be a place where people can put data that a client may be expecting to, pass on somewhere. And I have
So I'm
yeah,
trying,
I don't know.
let me
Go ahead,
let
Brent.
me phrase this and put it back at you and see where we're going with this. Because the data field itself, when we were talking about that one, and to be clear, we split this into two, and so this is not the data field itself. But when we were talking about the data field, that was just the data that was in the blob already. We weren't changing the blob or doing anything different in that. We were just taking the content that was already in the blob, repackaging it in a JSON and dumping it in the manifest. And the digest on that was going to match. So you couldn't put anything different that was already in the blob because the digest has to match in this case. So we didn't change anything that's already out there. We just gave you a different way to download it without having to make that second round trip. So does that answer your concern, or are there still other things you're thinking about?
So it doesn't mean that somebody can like hack your build system and inject something into the data field that a client may be using for something else.
Couldn't they do the same?
No
with
more,
blob today?
no more than they, yeah, no more than you can already do.
Yeah,
There's-
annotations, annotations already allows things like that, right?
Do they though?
Yeah,
Annotations are like key value pairs. Data is just a blank place to put whatever you want.
I think we do
No,
annotation injections that customers do, encode it into something and stick it in there. It's not unheard of. Data just formalizes it nicely. So
Yeah.
hold on.
And
That's
you
not what
can't put
data. So
anything.
that's not what the data field. The data field. So like, okay, if I have a descriptor and it says my content has this content ID, right? So it'll have like a digest in there. The way it works today is you take that digest, you go to the registry, you pull it down from registry, you verify it, and then you make sure that the digest matches, right? All the data field does is put the content that you would fetch from the registry identified by that digest into the field, into that data field. Encoded in base 64, I believe. If I remember correctly, you can correct me if I'm wrong. So
Right.
there's no like that you can't just so it's going to change the digest of that descriptor, right? If you try to change that data or like inject something else in there, and when you pull that image, if you change that data in flight, it will change the digest of the like overall image. So if there's anybody like injecting anything or any annotations in there, it should, if it doesn't break the clients, that's a security issue, right? So there's no danger here. It's all verified by hash and it's all secured by hash. Like if we've done everything right, you should be able to like pick up a USB, like sitting in a gutter on the street, plug it in, hash the data. I mean, don't do that. That's badly security for other reasons, but I'm just illustrating. You can get the data from literally anywhere, and if you can safely hash it and process it, and it has that same hash, like you should theoretically be okay. And so it's just the same. It's just another avenue. So it's not like a side injection mechanism. We don't ignore the hash on it. It should be just as secure as being stored in registry. It's just a shortcut to avoid that round trip.
Okay, that makes more sense to me, Steven. So,
Great.
As long as the spec clearly says this is how you encode data into the data field, this is fine.
And that's what we added in that pull request was data was originally a reserved field. And now we finally said, here's how you use it and defined. It's just base 64 of whatever you would have pulled with the blob.
Okay, sorry for derailing there.
No, if you're confused,
Not at all.
it's good to make sure we're clear.
Yeah.
Do we want to reopen that can of worms with the pull request?
I'm okay with it. I don't have any, control over merge stuff or anything like that. It was just a question I had.
Did we merge the one with the data field yet?
No, because we don't have any active maintainers of the image spec.
Oh, this is on the image spec. Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
I'm tempted to just close that PR and open a new identical one so that it's less long so people will actually read it.
That's a very effective strategy, actually.
Yeah, it is
Wipe the
long.
context.
I might do it. We'll see.
All right, for the purposes of this spec 1.1, I'm done. So,
Josh, while you're going through all the 1.1, I did open up issue number 317 on distribution spec.
oh,
It's just asking about the conformance test. I don't know if you want to mark that as saying that's something you want to tackle now, or if you want to say.
yeah, I mean, I don't want to commit to anything on a public call here, but I'm hoping to take a look at the tests soon. I'll throw this in. And
Okay.
I guess, is that since 1.0 behavior, or that's always been there? Or
It's
just not
always been
testing?
there,
Okay.
but we never tested it until I write code against it and find out registries don't support it.
Okay, this is not new for 1.1. Okay, yeah, I'll already ahead of time ask if John and Derek and Stephen, if if I do do a conformance PR, if I can get a swift look at that, and we can cut a release candidate and keep making progress. But
Yeah, just keep pinging me on Slack or pinging that.
yeah,
was effective.
I'll find you. Does anyone else want to chat anything else, or do you want to give ourselves 7 minutes? No. All right. See some of you Tuesday. See some of you in a week from today, and on the internet. Bye. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Cheers. Good
Thanks
to
for
see
talking,
everybody.
Josh.
Yep.
Bye, guys.
Hey.
John Johnson is a really cool dude.